Hello everybody, it's Father Chris from St Mary's Church here. I hope you are all keeping safe and well and are trying to make the best of this time, which can be very difficult for all of us. I hope you've all managed to avoid catching the virus as best you can. As you can see, I am in the church building. At the moment, of course, I'm the only one who's allowed back in the church building, as it's been considered not safe for us all to gather again. And so the door in front of me is very much closed, and we can't go back into church. However, while I am in church, I am streaming services to people over the internet, and that's one of the reasons I'm here today, to record some video to go out for somewhere else. While I'm here, it occurred to me that we don't often have an opportunity to spend much time looking at the image of Our Lady of Willesden, who is of course very special to us, as we are not only St Mary's Church but also St Mary's School. So I thought we would have a quick look at the statue, which you will have probably seen many times as you come into the building and as you sit in school mass, hopefully listening to what I have to say, but sometimes maybe not. So we don't always get a chance to come into the chapel and to look at the image. So as you can see, here she is, very familiar to us all, and very much a striking part of the building. She's made of wood, and she was sculpted quite a while ago now, in 1971, I think it was. 1970, it's certainly the early 1970s, by someone called Cathani Stern. And the reason this was done was because a very long time ago, hundreds of years ago, this church was a very important place of pilgrimage. Christians came from all over London and further afield to visit the image of Our Lady of Willesden, which was set up in what we believe in what was the chancel. So the part of the building behind the altar, if I swing the camera around, you can see the part of the building behind the altar in here, where nowadays we have a set of steps and a bit of a gap in between one altar and the other. So the original image was taken away at the Reformation in 1537 by those who were responsible for dissolving all the abbeys, closing them down and removing all of the expensive and very precious materials, all the special cups and plates and all the riches. And this original image of Our Lady was very richly gilded with silver, we're told, and probably had quite a few fairly precious jewels added to it. So for a long time after it was removed, the pilgrimage tradition was suppressed, and people were not allowed to come here on pilgrimage, and the church was a very different place. In fact, my predecessors, the previous vicars of Willesden, right up until 1905, had to pay a fine every year because of the tradition of pilgrimage, which was considered to have been very wrong. And so they punished all of the vicars right up to 1905 because of the tradition that had built up. I think that was a way of trying to send a message that they must not bring that tradition back again, because otherwise they would be fined even more money. But in 1905, all of that stopped, and we began to realise that pilgrimage is a really important spiritual discipline. It's not something that just Christians do either. As many of you will know, Muslims have a very strong tradition of pilgrimage, and indeed going on pilgrimage to Mecca is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So Christians don't just have one place in the whole world that's an important place of pilgrimage, as many Muslims do. Although we do have the Holy Land, of course, and lots of Christians aim to go on a Holy Land pilgrimage at least once in their lifetime. But we also have lots of other places where people can go to get close to the saints, to the places that were really special holy places to help them grow in their relationship with God. This church, St Mary's in Willesden, was one of those really special holy places. Probably one of the most holy places in England was the shrine of Our Lady at Walsingham, which still is in North Norfolk. If you go to North Norfolk, you can go, and the shrine has been restored, and there's a beautiful, beautiful church there, and a lot of outdoor parts as well that you can visit. You can go and have a look around and learn all about the tradition in Walsingham. But it was obviously very expensive for people from London and from this part of the country to go all the way to Norfolk when they didn't have cars and they didn't have public transport, and it took a much longer length of time to get there. So a lot of people who couldn't afford it would come here to Willesden instead. And in 1972, the tradition of pilgrimage was revived by the then Bishop of Willesden, Bishop Graham Leonard, and the incumbent, the vicar at the time. And they had this beautiful statue that you can see behind me installed. Now, she's made of black wood. I don't think she's actually painted. She may be. But there is some, round the back here, you can see there's actually been some fire damage at some point in the past. Now, not a lot of people get to see that because it's hidden behind the image. But can you see all that fire damage? Yeah. It must have been quite a hairy moment when the statue caught fire. I'm not actually sure how it happened, but it shows you just how fragile these things can be and how important it is that we protect them. I also think it shows us too that these physical things, these objects of pilgrimage, have something to show in terms of what they can teach us about our own fragility as human beings. Mary wasn't some sort of mystic, mythological being who had superpowers or anything like that. She was another woman just like you and me, a human being created just as much in need of healing and forgiveness, and just as likely to get sick and be injured as anybody else. And the statue's fragility reminds us of that. It also reminds us, because it shows us the baby Jesus cradled in her arms that you can see there. It shows us that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came into the world through a human body, through Mary. And it's only because Mary said yes to the angel who asked if it would be okay for God to give her a child who would be Son of God. It's only because she said yes that actually happened, that actually took place. And so we're reminded that the stuff of human life, the ordinary human stuff, physical things, created beings, you and me, we're made to be holy. We're made to be special. And we're made to be just like God, just like Jesus Christ, who is God and a human being and a man at the same time. And that's one of the amazing things about being a Christian, is that we believe it's possible to become just like Jesus. And in order to do that, we have to follow him. And Mary shows us the way to follow him. Simply to receive him into our hands and into our hearts, to welcome him, to be with him, to talk to him and to encounter him. And that's another reason why people came to this place and why they still come to this place, because it helps them to encounter God and to spend time with him. Churches at the moment up and down the land are closed, and that's for a good reason. It's to stop people getting sick and catching the virus while they're in church. And that's an important thing, but we must look forward to the time when we're able to come back into church and be in them again, because these places are special and holy. They've, in many cases, been here for hundreds of years, and they teach us about the importance of sacred space, of having holy places in the world, which are not necessarily any more powerful or where they're any more likely to encounter God, but they're places that help us to focus on our faith, to place ourselves in the same place that Christians for hundreds of years have found God in the same way. And so they help us to get closer to God. And that's another reason why we have statues, why we have images like this one here of Our Lady of Willesden and her Divine Son. They help us to encounter the people that they depict. And so they're an aid to prayer. They help us to pray because they show us the object to whom we are devoted. And in Jesus' case, of course, the object that we worship. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of scuffing, quite a bit of rubbing on the hands on there. I don't know if you can see that. I'll come around a bit more. Can you see how it's been worn a bit? It's been worn by people touching, trying to get close to the image, because physical contact really matters to human beings. You and me, we're made for contact with people. And that's why this time of confinement, of restriction, staying at home, staying safe and social distancing is so difficult for us. So we're not made to live like this. And I know it's hard, and it goes against everything that we are wired for as people. But one day we will very soon be able to come together again in this place and in other places. We'll come together at school and we'll be back together again, and we'll be able to worship God together, to enjoy special time together, to have games, to run around together in the open air, even playing football, which is not really supposed to happen at the moment, at least not with people who are not in your family. So we will come back together again, and it will be a wonderful time. It will be a wonderful day when that happens. But until then, we can ask God to help us, to strengthen us. We can ask for Mary's prayers to support us, and we can do that especially through focusing our prayer on images like this, even if we can't be in physical contact with them. So if you can, see if you can look up an image somewhere of Our Lady of Willesden. You've probably got it, even if you've only got it on the letterheads that come from school. If you've got it on your school uniform somewhere, you will find the image here. Have a look at it. Have a look at it. And maybe say a prayer whilst you're looking at the image. Ask for Mary to show you her son, Jesus. Ask for her to ask her son to comfort you and give you peace and strength to come through this time so that we can be together again and enjoy all the things we used to enjoy. God bless you. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll speak to you again soon.